record now.
Hi everybody, and welcome already to the third episode of IWWOF Talks Business with. I would like to remind what is International Working Women of Finland, because we have some perhaps new visitors today. IWWOF is a group that was born as a Facebook digital networking group in August 2019, and since then we have reached 4,900 members. Our aim is to support each other in our journey in Finland as international, but also Finnish women. And more specifically than the IWWOF Talks Business With is a webinar series that we started in September. And in this webinar series, we have a couple of things in mind. We want to empower our guests who are from some of the most interesting and innovative companies in Finland to tell their stories as individuals, but also tell their company's story and about the business and visions and business trends, and a very specific topic is chosen then for each session. Then we also want to inspire our IWWOF community and sort of like broaden your horizons to either new companies that you didn't know about or then new topics that you didn't know about. And then, of course, because we'll have a Q&A at the end of this session, we also want to give you the opportunities to be able to dialogue directly with our guests. Today, we are very excited to have Merja Ranta-Aho, who is the Executive Vice President of Human Resources at Elisa. Elisa is one of the biggest communication companies in Finland, and we learn also a little bit outside of the borders of the Finland. And we also have Marion Boberg, who is the team leader for the Viihde services at Elisa. And the Viihde services is an online platform for those who are not familiar, in a little bit similar way like Netflix. So this kind of online contents from the media. And Marion is specifically responsible for the design, the service design, and all designs related to these Viihde services. So she will tell us more about this. We are going to talk about internationalization today, and my co-host is Priyanka Banerjee, who is the CEO of Business With. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. And whilst Marion is going to prepare the sharing of the screen, I'm going to give the opportunity for Merja to share some information about her background and about who she is. Welcome, Merja.
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, hello to everyone. It's an honor to be speaking with you today. This is a topic I actually started talking with the Galit at some point, and that was also my introduction to IWWOF about 1 year ago. So still on the same journey, thinking about how a company can grow international. So some words about myself. I'm born in Finland, but I spent my childhood actually in Germany, Köln, in the very beautiful city with a very, very beautiful tall church that was so awesome when I was a little child. And when I moved then back to Finland, I actually spoke better German than Finnish at that time, which was also, I hear, the reason why my parents wanted to come back to Finland. So I went to the German school here, and then studied psychology. Never have been working as a psychologist though, but I went to research customer-centric design in telecommunications in the Helsinki University of Technology, and from there then through many hazardous accidents I happened to end up in HR in a company called Radiolinja at that time 20 years ago. I was never supposed to be a HR person, but I suddenly noticed to be grown as one. So things happen to people, and as you can hear, I never had a career plan, and I'm still not knowing exactly what I'm going to be when I'm growing big. So maybe something is going to happen that still changes some trajectory of my career. But it has been a good fun until so far. So I really enjoy my work working with growing a company and a community of people, which is what I really love to growing a community and growing it more and more international actually at this point. So that's me.
Wonderful, Merja. And yeah, it's always inspiring to hear so many stories of women who have either studied a certain field or started the career in certain field, and then somehow the path of life just take you in another direction. And I think that's wonderful story. And definitely you are one of our great international women, because you also have, although you're Finnish born, an international background from having spent a childhood in the Germany. So thank you so much for sharing. Now I would like to invite Marion to give also a few words about herself.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Caroline, and thank you for inviting us again together with Merja. I feel very small, but thank you. Thank you. I was very impressed, actually, Merja, from many similarities we have in our background. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm French. I moved to Finland about 20 years ago, and the reason was to learn English. I think I did a pretty good job from that. And my background is also in psychology. So I did actually my PhD in both University of Joensuu, now called University of Eastern Finland, and also University of Caen in Normandy. So I'm from Normandy, but I would say that I have almost spent now half of my life in both countries. So I'm not sure if I'm just European, if I may say. So as said, my background is in psychology, but little by little, I realized that if I don't speak the language and if I want to stay in Finland, it might be difficult to actually have a career in psychology. And then actually I met Caroline, and she's the reason. I will not go into the details, but basically, this is again one way that you meet someone who opens your network and give you an opportunity. So she basically hooked me on this, my first job in Finland, which was about a UX researcher position for Nokia research at the time. And from there, basically our friendship started. And then from Nokia UX research, you know what happened to Nokia. I ended up in TAMK, research and development unit as a project coordinator. And then from there, I get some experience in startup or entrepreneurship, because our project there was a spin-off into a startup. From there, I learned that maybe I should learn more about business. So I started to study to become to have an MBA, which I did. And from there, I ended up in Quantel, so another telco company, which I left. And then I ended up now at Elisa as a service designer. So I kind of started from psychology and moved towards more design, kind of like, and management. So this is basically my path in Finland. Yes, with some periods of uncertainty in between, but anyway, yes.
Thank you, Marion. So now let's go into the fantastic journey of internationalization, of Elisa. And you'll see that we look at it, of course, from the company perspective, but also very much from the human resource perspective. So Merja, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Caroline. And I hope that while you are listening, one of my purposes to have this presentation is also to get some insight from you about how could a company that has a long heritage in Finnish, in being a very Finnish company, how could we learn to be better international? And while you will hear some of the things we struggle with, you might have some insight about, well, why are you thinking that's a problem? That's not a problem. So I would appreciate any insight from you about how to be better in growing international in all of its aspects. So first of all, just to build some context for you about what we are. Elisa, today, if you are watching television, you have probably been pestered with our commercials for some time. So probably most of you know Elisa. We are from our background, a telecom operator, but more and more also a digital services company, especially when we think about our corporate customer services and especially when we think about growing international. So our roots are in 1882, which was some years after Bell had invented the telephone. And young engineer Daniel Johannes Weiden came to Finland and brought a telephone with themselves. And they started building telephone companies here at the same time in many cities in Finland, in Helsinki, in Tampere, and in other cities around Finland. And he was actually a regulation innovator and disruptor, because at that time the Tsar was ruling in Finland, so we were part of Russia, and the Tsar had monopoly over the telegraph. And everybody was scared that the Tsar would actually want to have monopoly also on the telephony. So they went very innocently asking if they could found associations for building connections between the members of the associations per telephone. And that sounded so nice and very local and very innocent that they got the permission to build this kind of associations. And that's why Finland actually has grown as a telephone country differently from any other country through over 100 very local telephone companies and not one national company. So about 100 years, we were a very Finnish company, building, slowly developing our technologies. We have been innovators. So if we think about automation, our first automation project was in 1929 when we automated the Helsinki telephone network switch, which was at that time operated by ladies on the switchboard. But we were very Finnish, bringing some innovations to Finland, and only in the last 30 years we have been more and more growing our business outside Finland. So there was actually Comptel. So Marion, I don't know if you knew, but you have been an Elisian also before your current career, because Comptel also has been a part of Elisa. It has been our IT department that then grew international and started selling for other telco operators, the things they have been building. It's actually a thing we repeat also today in our international business. We build something for ourselves and notice that that's actually so good that we can sell it to other telcos. So we went in the era where the GSM phone was very new. We also went to Estonia to found there the second GSM company, mobile company, Elisa Estonia currently. We went to Germany and bought some local city operators. That's technology that no one uses it basically anymore, but at that time it was very popular. So we had a German part, we had this Comptel part, which we then sold away. And now since 2008-9, we have been growing several other international digital businesses, starting from video connections. Elisa Viihde has actually global customers in over 100 countries at the moment. So the about 100 Elisa Viihde people, they are scattered around the world at this moment. Currently, we are building international business also in this kind of telecom network efficiency era, where Elisa Automate is selling automation for network control to other operators around the globe. And we have a smart factory business where we sell, let's say, IoT factory control systems for factories based on our own service operations center technology that we have been using for the telco network. So while the core of our business and let's say the largest part of the money comes from a very Finnish Estonian telecom business, over 15% and a growing amount of money comes from international digital business. And that is one thing that we want to grow, and we have actually now just been updating our strategy also personal wise. And one of my biggest challenges is to build an international community of Elisians that innovate and learn together, this be they anywhere in the world. So that's us. 100 years of very peaceful work in Finland and 30 years of growing internationalization and
just
growing turbulence. Yeah.
Great. Just to give us an idea, so you were saying, for instance, that there is about 100 people in the Elisa Viihde that are then more in this kind of like international operations and such. But then for those that represents the 85% of the business you're still doing with the Finnish and Estonian communication, what would be roughly the number of people that we are talking about?
We are all together 5,000.
Yeah. Okay. So
and of that 1,000 are in Estonia.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a still big majority is in Finland and Estonia, and then a few that are.
Yeah. So it's around 5%. That are not in Finland and not in Estonia.
Yeah.
So the largest part is in Sweden at the moment, and then Madrid in Elisa Viihde operations is the second. So if you can actually change the slide so you can see here the countries we are present. So unfortunately, the size of the country doesn't represent the amount of people.
Right, but I think my question is for our audience to understand that though you have the ambition to grow on the international scale with the business, it's still a very domestic or regional business, which I think makes it even more interesting to hear from you today. Why do you still choose to have the international talents? Because of course international talents can support any company in their internationalization journey, but I think you also have a lot of international talents who are working on very domestic driven type of products and services.
Yes. So there are so many different reasons.
Exactly.
And you can grow internationally in so many different ways. So actually our first attempts in being international came actually from having international vendors, which is in the telco area, of course, a must. We don't, we did build a lot of that equipment here in Finland, but currently it's also a very international thing. And especially our handset equipment doesn't today come anymore only from Nokia, but it comes from very global companies. So working with international vendors has been our first must in having to work in an international setting with different cultures, with different languages, different time zones, and being not able to be in our very safe nest in Finland. The other thing has been growing with our existing customers. So for instance, if a large company went to Russia, that's why the whole large Russia is marked as our territory. We have very small operations of a couple of people there who are serving some of our largest corporate customers also in the Russian operations. So that is also one easy way to grow international, to go with another company who is also growing international in that country. Then, of course, it's the way of acquisitions, and that is something we have lately been doing quite some. We actually just recently bought a company called CalcuQuote, which is located in Dallas, Texas, and they have an operation in India. So that is really something. And actually, India came to our map also through our big vendor Tata Consulting Services, who are doing lots of our IT services both in Finland and in India. So we have a large international team also in our Finnish offices. That was actually our first touch to a really international community inside our office in 2013. So it's quite recently. But
and I think I can add to that, Merja, because I was in that team when when we started doing that with India, and we were developing and working together with Elisa. And I think from that time, it has probably grown quite a lot in its working and the way of operations, because also when we start this kind of an international collaboration with vendors, both of the parties are learning quite a lot about their culture.
Yes.
And that time having these different people from international background also helps each other to.
It really helps, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, because Finns are culturally a little bit different than some other nations, and vice versa. So that makes communication not always very straightforward and easy.
but also for me, I would say like that was my first step to learn about Finnish culture.
Wow. So how did it look like?
In the beginning, yes, it was very interesting. Like
interesting. That's a nice word.
But yeah, we also learned quite a lot from my own experience that it was nothing is right or wrong, but it is about understanding the differences and making that work and adapting to that situation. So I think it was a really good learning for me, and to also get to know more about Finland and Finnish culture.
Yeah, definitely, yes. And I have to say that also starting business, let's say that our Estonian colleagues are one for us a very safe way to learn about different cultures, because we know that between Finland and Estonia already there are lots of differences in attitudes and what's kind of the basic assumption of how things work.
That's true.
So it's really, the distance that doesn't have to be very, very large. Or Finland and Sweden are very different in that sense. Yeah. What are we buying from India? Jana is asking. We are buying. I just noted that there is a chat there. So if someone has been asking something before Jana, then please repeat the question, because I just realized that there's chat.
Yes, don't worry. We will ask all the questions.
We will ask them. Don't worry.
Yeah. So we are. Buying from India some software development, especially for our company IT services. So the services we provide to the consumers, they are developed in our Finnish and Estonian operations, but our, let's say, background IT systems, their maintenance and development, it's quite much in India. So that is the point. Yeah, starting business, we always thought that it's kind of the only way to go international is to go and build a business internationally, but that's not at all the easiest way. So it's really kind of the most hard way to go and start a business abroad, and that also we have been trying and noting that it's not so easy. So we have been trying to sell a TV channel with Finnish and Nordic content to the Chinese. That's one thing we have been trying to. China is a huge market, and they have actually quite some interest in Nordic TV programs, Nordic noir films and nature programs and so. But business-wise, it didn't really. We were not skilled enough to do that. For instance, we have been trying several other things. But at the moment, we develop things quite much either for ourselves or for let's say we try it out in the Finnish market, and then go with help of some acquisitions to grow it internationally. And that has been actually a quite successful strategy. So we find companies that have a complementary product to ours and have the customer base already there and Salesforce and some processes, and we then join forces with them. And then of course there's the international part in Finland, which is hiring international workforce, and that of course the motivation for us has been very simply that when we have talents available and when we can hire from a broader base of talents, we can truly find the best ones for that job. And of course it's not at all a straightforward thing when the whole community is very Finnish speaking. I remember when we had our first non-Finnish speaking person in Elisa. I was the HR manager of that department or that unit at that time, 2009 or 10 or so, and we had just had to translate everything because we had nothing there in the English language. And I have to say it must have been very hard for him to skip into the community where no one really speaks English in the breaks, where nothing, all information is just in Finnish, and Google Translate didn't work at that time yet. So he was really dependent on all the colleagues and people getting the information. So just some points just to point out what a company has to resolve when they are growing international, especially when you are growing an in-house international community in the country you are operating, but also when you are growing multi-country. One of our subsidiaries, Elisa Viihde, has been international from the start. So they have already learned to be basically an English-speaking company with 14 different nationalities and almost 20 languages that they use to serve our customers. But the rest of us is very much in the learning phase here. So first of all, we have to learn the common language. And everybody who is not speaking their native language or a language they have spoken for years in a work context knows that it's always not so easy to express your thoughts very clearly. And when you are talking about difficult things, be it strategic things or new business ideas or be it personal things, it always needs a little bit time and effort to make sure that you get your message through. So you really have to, first of all, start with the courage of speaking languages. And the Finnish school system is in many ways very good, but it is not very good in encouraging people to speak foreign languages, because at least when I was in school here, I know that the Deutsche Schule Helsinki has a little bit different approach to language studies. They learn mostly by talking, and then they only later on teach how to write and the grammar and so that stuff. But Finnish schools are very much teaching how to be very correct and make no mistakes in the language. That's not a very good starting point for using a foreign language in working. And I really have to say I admire everybody who is constantly in their non-native language every work day, because I know that it really must be an effort for them. Then
actually, Merja, so sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. I was actually commenting on the chat the other way around, that my native language is French, but because my entire professional life in my current company has been in English, yeah, I'm incapable to speak French. So wow. I think that the challenge is not even so much, yeah, that is it the native language or not. It's just that the language you have learned in your profession, which is very, very difficult to switch then. And I was asking our other ladies on the group if they have had also the similar case, because oftentimes we think, oh, it's hard for Finnish people to switch to English in this kind of context of internationalization of the workforce. But actually, it's just as hard, for instance, for me, if tomorrow, whatever reason, Kone, my company, decides that French is the working language, I would have really big troubles. Yeah. So it's tough to change in any case. Yeah. But please go ahead.
That's a really good point. So it's also, I speak in private life, I can speak German and understand very well, but if I would have to work in German, I have no idea of the vocabulary. So it's really hard. But that's actually also a relief, because I think that that tells you also that if you just train long enough and use the language long enough, then you will have a kind of an easier life coming at some point. So you have to change. Yeah, you have to change your language. Yeah.
Sorry, if I may add, I think that it's also another use case is that if you're a foreigner working in Finland and you've used English and then you plan to use Finnish, it's the same. It becomes the same. I've tried and I cannot understand any of the, let's say, work related to design, work words in French or in Finnish. And I've tried to make my CV in Finnish. I just don't understand. It's a very different language. Yeah. All the jargon needs to be learned.
It is. Yeah. Actually, my son has studied in English, and he's not able to really talk about his studies in Finnish. So it's So we have actually at the moment we have 3 different working languages in Elisa. So the majority of our operations in Finland speak Finnish. our production part, our international businesses, and when we are working on strategy is in English. And then the Estonian part speaks Estonian. And in addition, we have then, of course, many languages we use when serving our customers. But then those are people who probably have that as a second language in any case. So I think I see lots of discussion here that, well, you could do this job in the English language or without knowing Finnish. And that's in many cases true. But what I have learned during the years is that it's not never just the one job you have to think of. You have to think a little bit wider. You have to think how that person feels when they are coming to the working community. Is it only job-related things they get to do, or do they actually have an international community? And that's what we have been trying to build in that part of Elisa where Marion is working, so that they truly have an English-speaking community there. And also it's about the careers, because when you have been a couple of years there, you're going to ask, well, what's next for me? And if that only job was the only thing you can do, and then there's nothing, then it's kind of an empty path. You can't go on like that. So we have to also think how we can grow careers that are truly international. Also, always when you include someone, you exclude someone else. So we have been forced to make a choice. For instance, that our strategy work will be done in English. That means that if you cannot speak English, you are kind of excluded for a part of that at least. And that's always not really an easy thing. So it's always not possible to have everybody on board at the same time, and then you just have to balance with the things. We are just starting to understand about different cultures and diversity, and that is something which is going to be for the next years one of our focus topics to learn. And also then getting everybody along in building the common culture. That is one of my biggest jobs the next year. How can we get our new Calco Quote colleague in Dallas to build Elisa culture? That is going to be. But I think I give now the floor to Marion, who has a much more practical experience about how this works in practice. You have been one of the courageous people who have joined us and built a very beautiful service design function there. So please go ahead. How does it look in the everyday life?
Okay, well, thanks a lot. And I have to say, this is one of my best experience as a company in Finland after Nokia. I have to say that I'm really, really happy. So we agreed that this is not about advertising the company, but just for kind of like giving you like some insights. So I'm really happy to be part of Elisa and also this Elisa culture. Sorry, I need to move for the light. So what I wanted to share with you today was that first I start from the Elisa Design, because it really has this community, as Merja mentioned. And then I will take you a little bit deeper into my own team and how do we actually operate. So Elisa Design is then a function within Elisa, and I've been doing a little bit of research background. So there were some front runner already within Elisa by challenging the needs for variety. What does that mean in practice is that they wanted to acquire not just designers coming from design background, but from very different various backgrounds, such as anthropology, and also architecture or a developer's background. So they were front runners already from bringing this variety. And it was already, correct me if I'm wrong, Merja, about 10 years ago that they wanted to also open towards different talents from different culture. So it's a background from let's say a knowledge or competencies, but also different culture. When we talk about the design community, so it's basically designers who work in B2B, B2C, different products, different part of the organization. And we are about 40 plus designers, to give you an idea. And among those, there is about 10 nationalities. And as Merja mentioned earlier, our language is always English. So we have a design breakfast every Monday. Everyone is free to join, and that's also part of building the community. And we speak in English there. Even though some of our design work is in Finnish, we communicate within the company in English mostly. Yes, I mentioned the different culture background. And then what I understood also when I discussed with our head of design is that the design community was also, or the design, let's say, function was also a challenger in the spectrum of talent within Elisa. So what I've understood is that we were focusing mostly on acquiring very senior designer, and they have opened up from the design community to opening up towards providing a trainees position. So we have also collaboration with university in Finland and international trainees to bring in like more juniors and younger talent. And we also have a part of our design community, which are consultants. So there is this very big mix of different kind of, let's say, different background and also different types of work. And if you're interested to look into this Elisa service design or design community, I put here the link down the slide. So I don't know if you have any question at this point. But then I think to share with you about more in practice, what does it mean to work in the English language in the design team in Viihde. So Caroline mentioned earlier, Elisa Viihde is entertainment services. So it's like production of television. We also have a streaming service and a recording service. And we provide that service across different platforms. So Elisa Viihde design team is the biggest in-house design team. It has 6 designers. So I'm the team lead. We have 4 female and 2 males, and together we have 7 nationalities. And this is not wrong. We have one of our internal people has double nationality, and the backgrounds are very, very different. So we wanted to bring really a big knowledge to help us to collaborate with the business, with the analytics, with the developers, or let's say software development units. And therefore, our designers have from very different backgrounds. So of course we have core knowledge in industrial and visual design, but also software development, data sciences, psychology, and business. So I think that also shows the diversity that we have within the team. How do we work? Okay, something that I need to explain, I need to mention is that actually this service is serving Finnish consumers. So one could think that how come you work and design and develop a service for Finnish consumers? So well, we do the same that then if we would do with let's say what Merja mentioned, that we would work in English on our strategy. We do all the preparation, all the work in English together. If we want to do some research and invite Finnish people for interview or understand their user experience, we collaborate with the user insight team, or we do also work with project owners. So that allow us to always have some Finnish people to handle the Finnish language. That may come as a barrier, but I think that most of the time, Finnish is a problem if you make it a problem. So all all the information we get, we can utilize translation inbuilt in the tools that we are using. We do that for analyzing data, for example, that comes in a Finnish language. We do that for designing the UI that we then translate into the correct language. So yeah, so this is basically how we work, and our business partners and software development kind of unit, the speaking language is also English. But I don't know if you have some questions. I didn't really plan to kind of go into the details. I hope that it's more of a conversation.
Yeah, that's all right. And as we discussed before, and there will be questions coming, and we actually do have a few questions, but perhaps not so much on the design team. So we can go through those. But first, maybe a couple of insights, at least from my side, of what has been said so far. So I think the first one is that when I read a lot about companies in Finland who are still in a way scared to hire international talents, or when I speak with people from these companies, I think that the operative word is hire. And I think, Merja, you had a fantastic slide earlier on, because you were showing that there were 6 or 7 different ways actually that you have been internationalizing the workforce, one before Marion. And hiring is actually just one of them. Mm-hmm. So internationalizing your workforce is not just about, hiring people and you're like, oh my God, my whole company language has to change and my culture has to change, and what happens if we don't integrate them, or if it goes bad, or blah, blah, blah. So I think in that sense, the examples that you gave are really, really good. And especially because in Elisa, you started with the path of this software and or IT consultant firms, for instance, from India, because everybody has to use, let's face it, international, not necessarily from India, but at least international, IT and such firms, if you want to be competitive and so on. So in that sense, I think that's a fantastic example. And if we have people in our audience who are from SMEs that are maybe still not really quite at the path where they are sure that they will want to hire the international workforce, I think those options are really great to consider. Mm-hmm. That's the number one. And then I think from Marion, from what you were saying as well, that the Finnish can be a limit as long as you put yourself a limit as a company. Of course, as an individual, like if you need to be in a certain position, you would need Finnish, and that's a different topic. But in that sense, as a company, you have decided that design team can be an international team operating in English, even though it is for a Finnish consumer market. And then you've got the allies in the company, in the customer insights team that you can collaborate with and work in a smooth way to actually make in the end a successful customer experience. So I think those are very interesting points, which I think all Finnish companies should be thinking about.
Yeah, I think I can also add on what Marion said, and I also put it on the chat, that especially for a lot of companies serving the Finnish clientele, for them also it could be an interesting way or a good way to see that having an international team can actually bring more innovation to their design or to their product or whatever services they are doing, and it could be like a competitive advantage from the other players in the market because they have more diversity within the team.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I fully agree with you. I don't think that we try to build an international team, but we found in those people who happen to be, well, we had some criterion to fill up those positions, and it happens that the talents were international, but we didn't decide that, okay, we just want Finnish or just international. We opened ourselves and we tried to find the best that fits that position and also complement the skills of the other people within the team. So I think that's also very important. So what do we already have? What do we miss? And then we discover even new potential when going through the hiring process. So I think, Merja, you know more about that, but at least for me, that was a very interesting experience.
Yeah. And I think you have been able to be really open about who is the best candidate. and thinking about what criteria are really relevant to the position and what are not.
Now that we're talking about like hiring, I can take up one question that we had earlier, that now that you're saying that you're hiring international people, the question is, how does Elisa ensure diversity of workforce in hiring? So how do you make sure that you hire the right people, or you hire enough diverse workforce? And then how do you ensure that they have this smooth intercultural teamwork or smooth communication when they are working together? So
well, that's a very good question, and in a perfect world I would have a perfect answer for that, but I have to say we are just learning how to do that. Just the diversity of the workforce it has different phases in different operations. Let's say that we heard at some point that I'm not going to use the words that were used in this context, but that some of our customers have been noticing that the salespersons on our on this mobile sales points, they all looked very similar. They were male, 20, 25, max 30 years, very sporty, and you know, so we just came to realize that at that point our workforce is not at all diverse. And that, of course, starts with who is applying to the job. And thinking about men, women, Finland is a very separated country. So we have a very high degree of separation of what are jobs that typically women take and typically men take. And that's something our industry has to fight, because technology and telecom, especially if we are looking for a telco specialist, we might have no single female applicant. So it has to start in getting different people into studying the field. And here we come then, if you think about it, it's just technology, that's one thing, but if you think that you are actually building the world and how the world communicates, and you are changing and shaping the future, then it's clear that you need different people in doing that.
Also, you are in the HR. Do you also have in the hiring process some kind of KPIs or some kind of these kind of metrics that you put in order to ensure that you have like enough diversity within the different operations?
We measure some things, but then it's always the question of, if I ask this information, it's a two-ended sword, because if you want to have some anonymity in the recruitment, and you don't have the feeling that, okay, you ask if I am male or female or what age I am, then that could be used for discriminating. But then if you skip those questions, you also don't have any way to measure how you are succeeding. And so you have to choose between having the information or not having the information. Maybe we are more looking at the moment at our workforce that is in-house, and identifying where we would need more diversity, and then trying to think about where we get these different people.
Then actually Jana had a follow-up question on that, around the do we write the job ad more towards, like, that could be something more attracting to men or to women, but I think that that's something that in HR usually we are very neutral, I would say, in the way that tries.
I think there we have some hidden bias that we don't really understand. We are actually next month going to have a training for our recruitment team just to identify what kind of things might be more attractive to certain kind of people, and how to make the work ads more appealing to everyone.
Then I must circle back very shortly, as we have a few minutes, for a question from Regina. She was asking, actually, if in your view, the sort of, spoken Finnish, the easy Finnish, is something that is in a way good enough for companies, or that's going to be at some point anyway a kind of a block to climb the ladder if you don't have like a proper.
Yeah, Finnish is a funny language, because kirjakieli and puhekieli are so different, really, and I don't really understand how people actually manage to learn both of them. So congratulations for everybody who is doing that. So I think, of course, if you are in a position where you have to really produce written Finnish, then you need to command the kirjakieli. And there I have to say we struggle also with the Finnish candidates, because in many cases the written Finnish of technology experts is horrible.
So yes, spoken Finnish is not necessarily something that, as a company, is not really sought after. It's either you take the international talent that bluntly said, I'm not perfect in Finnish, I don't speak Finnish, or then you take someone who is more advanced in the Finnish language.
Yeah, well, let's say good spoken Finnish would be probably very enough if you are serving customers in Finnish and so on, where you don't have to really produce long written text. But if you are in a position where you need to really write presentations or so on, there you will need the proper Finnish.
Yeah, but I guess between spoken Finnish and broken English, people can also learn to work together. So
yes,
I speak by experience of this one. Okay, then, oops, sorry, having a bit of a technical challenge here. There was one more question, I think, from Jana. Priyanka, if you...
Yeah, I can take that. And it's I think it's more of like a comment that if you have a strategy to go abroad as Elisa, don't know if you have thought about it, but I think as Merja, you mentioned, you're already now international. You have gone abroad. 15% of your clients are now from abroad. So is it like internationalization only means acquiring the talent to match your strategy, from company business strategy to HR strategy? Does that make any sense to you? Because I think
I'm not sure if I'm answering the right question, but in any case, we try to figure out that if we are going to strive for this and this, then we need certain kind of people, certain talent, and then of course then it's a question of growing or hiring or buying. How you are.
I think I really like the one you explain on this current slide, that different paths towards international. And I think that's
if I may explain.
Yeah, go ahead, Jana.
So my question was really about the business strategy. If you, Merja, have a business strategy in your company at Elisa to go abroad with the business, then that would mean that you would need to translate then the strategy into your HR strategy as well, and having some kind of impact, consequences, etc.
Yes, that's true. Yes, of course.
But I think the message from today is that even if your strategy is not to go international and to stay in the domestic market, you will still benefit from having international talent if you want to be more innovative, or if you want to be, taking fresh ideas and fresh perspective, because not everybody is then coming out of the same design school or the same computer science school. So I think from education perspective, though Finnish education is fantastic, I'm not saying that, but there might be also different methods, different views, different ways of studying, learning, or working from other countries that you can bring as a richness to a very...
Yeah, I think we miss Caroline, but no worries. I think we all know what she was talking about, what Marion mentioned.
But I really want to point out that if you are trying to be excellent in any way, if you are really trying to be very good in something, then you have to understand that the kind of how excellent looks like, you have to look internationally, you have to look globally. Because that is the competition scene in most of the things. So if you want to be in a saappaanheitto, this wood throwing competition, that's probably very Finnish, but all the rest of meaningful business, I think you have to really look internationally, you have to learn internationally, and then the company just has to have people who are able to work on a global scale and learn from the global.
And the other side is, or you die, you won't survive the market. But let's now, because we have now the last 5 minutes, and let's go to the recruitment corner in very quickly. And Marion, if you could share how our people from our community can apply, what kind of jobs you are looking for at the moment, or what kind of talent profiles or skills are present in Elisa. Maybe also Merja, you can tell something about from your experience in HR.
I can tell something. So the first thing you will see there is that we have some of the ads we have in Finnish and some of the ads we have in English. So if you see a Finnish ad also in the English pages, you can know that are places where we need someone who speaks Finnish and can understand the ad. But if the ad is in English, then you can apply if you talk English. So there you can see the vacancies. About half of our recruitments annually are to the front line, serving consumer customers. It could be telesales, customer service, shops, and so on. So that's the largest volume of jobs. But then we have lots of tech and design positions, data science, and so, and they are mostly international positions. So that would be something that might be interesting for you.
Okay.
And then the one part is that we are looking for international sales force for corporate sales to be who are able to work in different regions, have maybe some contacts there and know the business there.
And what is the best way to apply? Like, is it through these vacancies, or do you also have like these through the networks or through these employee referral programs?
Basically, when we hire, we open a vacancy. So it's our internal policy is that first of all we rotate lots of jobs internally. So always when we want to have someone in a new position, it's first offered internally, and then if we don't find anyone, then we open it externally. And so always when you see a position there, you know that there is a real need, and then we are probably really wanting to hire someone. Okay. And we also already have checked that there's no one inside who is going to take that job.
Okay, so we take one last question from Putra to Marion, that what would you recommend anyone who want to work in service design team and who doesn't have a specific education in service design? Do you have any answer to that?
Well, first you have to learn. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the best example because I moved within my own domain towards service design. And that was something that really I saw that I could move from user experience research and my understanding of business towards service design. But there is a lot of, I would say, great books, also nice online courses. It really depends. Like, first of all, try to understand and define what do you mean by service design, because there are a lot of kind of misunderstanding, I would say, and definition. And then maybe see if you can make a career move towards service design. So I would say that service design, we have so many different kind of background of service designer in the company. Some are coming from data science because they are bringing all the understanding of the behavior and so on. We have some people coming from business background. We have people coming from really design, because you need to also be able to facilitate like the discussion between the different kind of like partners or stakeholders. So it really depends. What is your current, let's say, starting point or your current job, and how you want to get there. But there are many ways. Of course, there are schools as well. But I'm happy to help, and I have done that already since I participated in this great Facebook group. So people are reaching out to me on LinkedIn. I may take time to answer, but I'm happy to answer to kind of like personally to these kind of things. Yes.
If I can say one thing, whatever your profession is and you're interested in service design, the one step you can go is to think about who are currently your customers, because you are always working for someone to benefit from your work, and then go and work with them to understand what they need.
That's great. Thank you so much, Merja and Marion. Caroline, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I am sorry for a small technical blooper from my laptop, so I can't share you in the video, join you in the video anymore. But yes, thank you very much indeed. Not only to Merja and to Marion, but also you, Priyanka, as our co-host, and for all our audience who has been very active into giving all the questions and very interesting questions. So I think that concludes our episode for today. Thank you everyone for joining.